Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of Get Woke with Danielle Moody. All right, let's get started. Okay, it happened. You know, the thing that right wing media said that Vice President Kamala Harris couldn't do. The thing that kept being made into a bigger and bigger topic by mainstream corporate media. Well, she did it along with her Vice President Tim Walz. She sat down for an interview with CNN's Dana Bash, and it was exactly what one would expect. One, Dana Bash is a poor excuse for a journalist. Two, Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz knocked it out of the park, as they have been doing, by eliminating the middleman and just going directly to the voters. But they gave mainstream media a go. And here's a hard-hitting question that Dana Bash decided to ask the vice president. Take a listen.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any?
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what goes for journalism these days. And I use air quotes 1000%. So explain to me how asking the Vice President of the United States of America about her racist and misogynist opponent using GOP talking points but translating them into a form of a question is what passes as journalism these days. But apparently on CNN, that's the way it goes. I cannot express to you how happy I was for Vice President Kamala Harris to not even entertain the bullshit. Because you see, unless you want a circus, you don't go ahead and start entertaining the clown, which is exactly where that BS question was headed. But let's get into more BS, shall we, that CNN loves to put out. But this time, let's look at JD Vance's recent interview. Mainstream media offers JD Vance, I don't know, so many different lifelines. You would think he was on a game show. And every time that he's given a lifeline to back away from some of the ridiculous statements that he's made, he decides to dig in a little deeper. So take a listen to his commentary around voting against legislation that would protect IVF.
How would this work if a state, and you believe that states should have the right to make these decisions, if a state bans IVF, but Donald Trump says he wants to guarantee and or pay for IVF for everyone who wants it, how would that work if a state banned it?
Well, John, I think it's such a ridiculous hypothetical because Alabama, which is maybe the most conservative state in the entire union, has actively protected fertility access and fertility treatments. There's no state in the union, whether a right-wing state or a left-wing state, that I think is trying to ban access to fertility treatments. And if Alabama is protecting this stuff, I think it's safe to say the whole country is as well. So,
well, but the court,
look,
but there is a court.
I think that
Who's
what
to say
Donald
there's
Trump
not?
again wants to do is protect access.
Who's to say there's not another court in another state that could decide that IVF should be banned? It happened in Alabama for a minute. You also voted against a measure in the Senate that would have guaranteed access to IVF around the country. So it's possible, right?
Well, two things, John. First of all, yes, a court made that decision in Alabama, and like the next second, the Alabama state legislature fixed that problem and ensured women had access to these fertility treatments. And all that I voted on, John, is for religious liberty. I don't want Christian hospitals or Christian charities to be forced to do something that they don't want to do.
Yes. JD Vance says, oh, this is hypothetical. Is it? For the people that live in Alabama, is it? for the people that live in other red states that have tried to mimic Alabama's legislation. And when you were given an opportunity to protect IVF, which you say is something that should be protected, you voted against it and then want to use the caveat of religious hospitals and institutions. Miss me with it. Because once again, here's what I'm going to say. If you're receiving federal dollars, then you follow federal guidelines, and federal guidelines say that women should have autonomy over their bodies, right? And have the ability to decide when, if, and how they want to have a family. So JD Vance, once again, gets caught doing what he does best, mimicking a human, but doing a really poor job at it. I want you all also to take a look at this clip of JD Vance. So, in anticipation of Vice President Kamala Harris's CNN interview, he posted a meme. Now, this is a meme of a person who participated in one of Trump's beauty pageants, Caitlin Upton. And what ended up following, well, why don't you take a listen to this clip?
Night after CNN released a small clip of the Harris interview, you on Twitter posted a clip from a Miss Teen USA beauty pageant from 2007, Caitlin Upton, and you wrote, "I have gotten a hold of the full Kamala Harris CNN interview." Now, this thing that surfaced around the internet for a few years, she struggled answering a question back in this beauty pageant. I'm not sure you're aware, in 2015, Caitlin Upton did an interview with New York Magazine about all the social media attention this clip got, and she said, "I definitely went through a period where I was very, very depressed, but I never let anybody see that stuff except for people I could trust. I had some very dark moments where I thought about committing suicide." So when you posted this last night, were you aware that the woman you were posting a picture of had contemplated committing suicide for the attention it received?
No, certainly not, John, and my heart goes out to her, and I hope that she's doing well. Look, I've said a lot of things on camera. I've said a lot of stupid things on camera. Sometimes when you're in the public eye, you make mistakes, and again, I think the best way to deal with it is to laugh at ourselves, laugh at this stuff, and try to have some fun in politics. I posted a meme from 20 years ago, and I think the fact that we're talking about that instead of the fact that American families can't afford groceries or health care, young families can't afford to buy a home to raise their families in, those are the real crises that we should focus on. And there's nothing that says that we can't tell some jokes along the way while we deal with the very serious business of bringing back our public policy. Politics has gotten way too lame, John, way too boring. You can have some fun while making a good argument to the American people about how you're going to improve their lives.
Okay, I just want to be clear, though. You said you did know. Would you like to apologize to Caitlin Upton for posting that last night, given what you've now learned?
John, I'm not going to apologize for posting a joke.
Can you wrap your mind around this, folks? So the young woman that JD Vance used to try and make a joke, which he's terrible at and should just stop, contemplated suicide and told New York Magazine about it in 2015. So no one expects that JD Vance necessarily would remember, but when offered again the opportunity to apologize, to show any type of empathy, any type of compassion, any type of remorse, JD Vance reminds us that it is very hard for a robot to be able to mimic human emotions. I don't get it at all, but this is not the type of man that I want anywhere near policy decisions that will affect women, all women across this country. He's basically a monster, folks. And then finally, I want to round out this episode of Get Woke with some good news, something that is uplifting. So if you all remember, the mother-daughter volunteers in Georgia, Miss Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, who Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump turned into targets when they said that the passing of a mint, right, between these two volunteers at the voter polls were somehow evidence of there being fraudulence in voting in 2020 in Georgia, when Georgia went blue. And so they sued Rudy Giuliani. They received a $147 million settlement. Rudy Giuliani has since tried to declare bankruptcy, which was denied. And so now, this week, Miss Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss's lawyers have filed to get hold of Rudy Giuliani's properties until his finances, or lack thereof, satisfy the $147 million that he owes them for disparaging their names, putting them in danger, all for a lie that the 2020 election was stolen. So I cannot wait to see Rudy Giuliani maybe on a soapbox, maybe panhandling through the subways in New York City. Because there's one thing that is not happening, which is that his friend Donald Trump is going to bail him out. Because you see, he can barely bail himself out. That is it for me today, dear friends, on Get Woke. As always, power to the people and to all the people power. And folks, if you love the sweatshirt that I'm rocking, head over to daniellemoody.com to the damn shop and get yourself a nice little cozy sweatshirt as we make the transition from summer into fall. You won't regret it. And share this video and share the channel with folks. Support independent media outlets and like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Okay, as always, stay woke. See you next time.